Okay guys, today we'll be doing 3.14, derivatives of inverse trig functions. Let's get started. Okay, first thing, this is how we write inverse trig functions, okay? This is one way. Remember how we also wrote inverse functions in the other lesson. We wrote them as f to the negative 1 of x. Okay, so it's the same thing here. If you want the inverse of sine, it's sine to the negative 1, cosine to the negative 1. Don't get this confused with a negative exponent, meaning it like flips. Remember this, like x to the negative 1, that can be rewritten as 1 over x. And that's true. But sine to the negative 1 of x is not the same thing, okay, does not equal 1 over sine of x. This is not true, okay? This is just a denotation for inverse function. Okay, it's a notation for an inverse function. So we also have another way of writing all of these in math. You can call them arcs. So arc sine, arc cosine, arc tangent, arc cosecant, arc secant, and arc cotangent. Okay, that's another way of saying inverse sine, inverse cosine. So you got two different ways of doing this, okay? They could use either one on the test. Most likely they're going to be using the arc version of it. Okay, let's go forward. Okay, on these derivative inverse functions, you're gonna just need to memorize how to do each one of these, okay? So the thing on the inside is you're gonna rename it as u, and then on the top, you're going to have u prime over 1 minus the square root of 1 minus u squared. So how about we do a little example over here? Like let's say I want to find the derivative of arc sine of, I don't know, 10x squared. Okay? If I want to find the derivative of this, I'm just going to use this formula here for the derivative of inverse trig functions. So the derivative of this would be, on the top is u prime, so the derivative of this, that is my u. The derivative of that is 100x. So 100, I'm sorry, not 100, I'm sorry, 20. I cannot multiply here, I'll get rid of that. 20x over square root of 1 minus u squared, which is going to be 10x squared. Okay, and that, I mean, you can simplify that. The only thing you can do is square everything in there. So you could write this as 20x over square root of 1 minus 100x squared. That's about as far as you can go. I don't know how they're going to write it on the test. They probably leave it like this. But they might rewrite it like this. It's up to them. And that is the derivative of that right there. So here's the way of taking the derivative of arc cosine. It would be calling the inside u and doing negative. Notice that negative. Notice it's the exact same thing, except it's the negative of it. It's the negation of it. Yeah, so negative, exact same thing. Okay, so if you can remember arc sine, then you already memorized arc cosine because it's just the negative version of it. Okay, let's get the arc tangent and arc cotangent. Notice I'm putting these on the same thing because, look, it's the exact same thing on both of these, except one is positive, one is negative. Okay, arc tangent is this, arc cotangent is the negative version of it. So you're going to need to memorize those. And lastly, arc secant and arc cosecant. They're the exact same thing as well. One is positive, one is negative. You don't normally see them asking the arc secant and arc cosecant. Most likely you'll see them asking about the arc sine, arc cosine, arc tangent, and arc cotangent. These ones I don't normally see them ask, but I mean, it's fair game. So memorize all 6 of them. Okay, and remember all you really have to do is memorize 3 of them, and then the other ones are just the negative version of it. Okay. Here we go. So here's an example to do arc sine. So you're just going to have memorized what arc sine is. So let's write down. The derivative of arc sine is going to be u prime over square root of 1 minus u squared. Okay, you're going to have all of them memorized. So if you're going to do this one, it'd be u prime 10x over square root of 1 minus u squared. U is the thing inside. 5x squared squared. Yeah? Okay. I have a feeling that the first one I did, I didn't put a squared on there or something. I don't know. Here's your example, though. If you wanted to simplify this a little bit, it could be 10x over square root of 1 minus 5 squared is 25. X squared squared, that means you multiply the exponents, so 2 times 2 is 4. So x to the 4th, and that square root goes over everything. And there's the most simplified version of how you write it. You cannot. I've seen people trying to cancel out x's. You can't do that. One, because it's inside of a square root, but also because it has a minus. Remember, there's two terms on bottom, so you can't just cancel stuff out. And that's everything.